most of Americans' net worth is tied up in the equity in their homes, right? And so out of this 76,000, out of this 436,000, out of 833,000, out of this whole column of average net worth, a high percentage of that right now is going to be tied up in people's equity in their home. And to me, we are just one little thing away from that evaporating. And that it really doesn't have anything to do with how comfortable they are in retirement, right? Or how close they are to their retirement goals, because your primary residence, if you own your home, is not an investment. And that's a key thing to understand. Hey, what's going on, Cashflow Hackers? It's Chris with Life 180. And for this video, I want to be talking to you about the average net worth for Americans in different age brackets as we go up the ladder to retirement. Now, the thing that kind of stemmed this line of thought for me is the fact that I was reading an article, I think it was an NBC article or CNBC article, and I'll link it down below here. And I'm gonna actually share my screen and go through a little bit of it because they got some really cool graphs and charts and whatnot that I want to share with you. But at the end of the day, what really got me realizing here, there were some statements in this article that really were a cause for concern for me as far as the advice and the information that they're giving out. It just, to me, is kind of mind-blowingly irresponsible, what they're telling people. And then at the other side of the spectrum, I'm also, I talk with people every single day, and one of the things that I talk about is the fact that 95% of the people in this country are either behind, pace, to be able to maintain their standard of living when they retire, or are reaching retirement and being able to maintain their standard of living, right? That's a big problem. And I always say that this is a systemic problem. I know, the pandemic that we're having right now, but the real long-term pandemic is this financial crisis that we have on our hands. And it's not inflation. It is the fact that people are woefully undersaved for retirement. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into this. All right. So you could see here the article that I was mentioning, and the CNBC article. Yep. And the average net worth of Americans 65 to 74. So that's what got me to click on it. Obviously Google has me figured out as far as what I'm going to open and what I'm not going to open. So I'm predictable in that aspect, I guess. So what we have here is the average. So first and foremost, let me put it to you this way: while the average net worth they were talking about is 1,217,700 right here, right? So you look at that number, but you got to think about, this is the average net worth of people in their retirement years, right? The 65 to 74 years old. Now, when you look at the net worth, this is not retirement savings, everybody. This is net worth. So if you understand what goes into making up your net worth, that's a whole different story. So when you look at what net worth means, the actual definition of it, it's the total wealth of a company, individual, or household, taking account of all financial assets and liabilities, right? So when we look at this, what we're talking about is the average net worth of a household 65 to 74. That takes into account their home equity. That takes into account any assets that they have, including retirement assets. And it also takes into account the debt that they have as well. Because if they have a lot of debt, obviously that's going to hamper their net worth. But the bottom line is, this is not necessarily retirement savings. I think a lot of people look at this and they go, oh, if they have $1.2 million, that should be enough, right? That should be, most people, Dave Ramsey would have you believe that $1 million is a big deal. I'm here to tell you that it's not. The scary thing for me is that the real number here is well, and I guess just to finish this thought, and the reason I think the real number is not the average income or average net worth, but the median net worth. And the reason is because this 1.2 million accounts for the top 1%, and the wealthiest people in the world right now are between 65 and 74 for the most part, maybe aside from Elon Musk, right? For the moment, when you take into the, so if the overwhelming majority of wealthy people fall in this bracket, my question is, what would this number look like if you took out the wealthiest people in the world, right? What would this bracket look like if you got rid of the top 1%, that number would drop down significantly. That's one of the reasons, like I said, that's where the 95% of people not being able to maintain their standard of living in retirement comes from, because even this, with that 1% added in, is not enough for most people. And I know you're probably sitting there thinking $1.2 million is a lot of money, but I'm going to go through something with you in just a minute that's going to show you that it's not, right? So the median household net worth for, according to the Fed data, is $266,400 for families 65 to 74. $266,000 is the median net worth, including home equity, retirement accounts, everything. That is an absolute atrocious number. Now, if you don't know what the median is the midpoint. That means basically 50% of people make less and 50% of people are above. So that is your middle America, right? That is the person who's in the very, very middle. So there's such a high percentage of people that fall in to that range, where $266,000 is not. The fact that half of America, literally half of America, is below that number at that age is just a scary, scary number to me. And it just goes to show, why people are so dependent on government. Now, what it does down here, this is actually the chart that I was kind of mentioning, that I really, it tells an amazing story. When you look at this, households with the head of the household under 35, average net worth is $76,000. Median net worth is only $13,000. So the net worth includes your home equity. And if you recall, back in 2004 through 2007, you can find article after article after article and statistic after statistic that shows that net worth of households was going through the roof, right? And the bottom line is that's where we are right now, because most of Americans' net worth is tied up in the equity in their homes, right? And so out of this 76,000, out of this 436,000, out of 833,000, out of this whole column of average net worth, a high percentage of that right now is going to be tied up in people's equity in their home. And to me, we are just one little thing away from that evaporating. And that it really doesn't have anything to do with how comfortable they are in retirement, right? Or how close they are to their retirement goals, because your primary residence, if you own your home, is not an investment. And that's a key thing to understand. So this is where it gets even scarier. As I went down through this article, Fidelity, this is, first of all, let me say this, cookie cutter advice on how much money should you have for retirement, how much do I need to have saved, how should I save, any of that. And there's no such thing as cookie cutter advice that's good advice. So the scary part to me about this is that, people are going to read this and they're just going to believe it and take it for face value because of the fact that, they see Fidelity Investments. That's one of the biggest names in the financial industry. So this is my problem with cookie cutter advice, is that, you have a company like Fidelity Investments that people are going to see this and they're just going to believe, oh, well, Fidelity said it, so it's got to be true. They are saying in this article that people should have the equivalent of 10 times their income put aside by the age of 67. So first and foremost, there's a couple things to think about. A, people right now, me, I'm 40. Let's say I was planning on being retired by 67. If my income right now was $100,000, thank God it's not, but if it were $100,000, then what Fidelity is saying is that I need $1 million. I'm planning on $1 million. The problem that they're missing is that based on inflation and wage increase, my income the last year that I actually work is going to be over $200,000 because of inflation. So if I'm planning on getting $1 million, but I really need $2 million, I'm really behind the 8 ball. So that advice from a long-term planning perspective is dangerous unless you're accounting for your last year of income is the number that you need to be planning for, which hardly any financial planners are actually doing, right? So, and furthermore, this is dangerous because where does this arbitrary number of 10 times your income come from, right? Like, what does that even mean? This is what I say, cookie cutter advice is just bad, because people are going to read this and they're going to be like, oh, well, okay, well, I feel like I'm in good shape. I've got 10 times my income, or I'm on pace to be able to have 10 times my income, 20 years from now, so I should be good to go. The reality is nothing could be further from the truth. And the answer is sometimes 10 times your income, even if that's what you're going for. Let's say income grew from 100,000 right now to 200,000, and you wind up with 2 million and you have your 10 times income. That really still doesn't tell the whole picture. The question is, what is the interest rate environment at that point in time? What are you going to be able to pull out for fixed returns, and make sure that your money is going to get you a guaranteed return, right? Like for the rest of your life without running out of money. Monte Carlo simulations will tell you about 2.75% right now. Now, long term in the past, they said it was a 4% rule. That's where the 4% rule came from. Monte Carlo simulation saying if you want to be able to make your retirement account, your retirement portfolio last for you, you can't do strategic distributions of more than 4% without putting it under stress or risk of dissolving, and collapsing under the stress of the withdrawals that you're taking. And so the bottom line is that when we look at this, in today's environment with a 2.75% Monte Carlo simulation expectation, that means for every $1 million, you're looking at $27,500 in income, right? So that means for $2 million, you're getting about $55,000 of income if it's in today's dollars. So when people say, oh, that's just it, how does that work for you? If you needed $200,000 is your lifestyle, the answer really isn't how much do you need. It's like, why do you need it? What does the rest of your financial life look like? Do you still have a mortgage? Is your house paid off? What does your debt look like? What do you have for car payments? Most people go through life because they're not intentional about their money. They don't have a real financial structure and haven't been intentional the whole way through. They've just acted and operated like they're going to have income forever. And then they get to retirement and they realize that the income that their retirement portfolio is accumulating for them isn't nearly enough or what they're accustomed to. So then they either have to take a step back and reduce their standard of living, which is a big hit to their dignity and a big hit to their lifestyle and their, just their standard of living, or they have to keep working, which is a different world of pain and, not achieving what you want, right? Like that's just I look at this stuff and it just really, really bugs me, So when we get to net worth, this is just a list what they talk about, and it's good. It talks about all the investments, the annuities, the retirement plans, any equity in homes, any RVs, motorcycles, boats, and helicopters. Yes, because most people have a helicopter. But they put everything in here: real estate, credit card balances. It's all there. You can check it out. Navigating debt and retirement. Like, I'm not going to get into all this, but the bottom line, like for the debt, because, it's not really the point of this video, but the bottom line, what I want to talk about is the fact that when you're thinking about your retirement, I really encourage you to be much more intentional. In fact, it's one of the reasons I wrote my book, Cashflow Hacking. Now, when you look at this book, Cashflow Hacking, this is all about how to invest for cash flow. Everything I'm talking about right now leads to my point that I talk about all the time, that the financial system is broken. It's set up for people to fail because you're not thinking about the right things. And if you want to succeed, you need to invest in things you understand, and you need to invest for cash flow. That's what the wealthiest people do. Warren Buffett does not invest in mutual funds. He invests in companies. He invests in assets that create cash flow for him. And he can do that because he understands them. The problem is you got too many people that try to go out and duplicate what he does without knowing what he knows, and they run into problems. And so when we look at cash flow hacking, it's all about how do you reach financial freedom. It's not a matter of getting to 10 times your income. It's a matter of what is that income going to do for you and what do you need, and reverse engineering a plan. I always say the only financial plan that matters is what are your objectives, what is your time frame, and then once you understand that, you can reverse engineer a financial strategy to accomplish your goals, to create the life that you're excited to live. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. If you found value in this video, please hit the subscribe button, click the bell, that way you get notified every single time I launch a new video. And as always, if you have any comments, any questions, anything, any feedback, leave it in the comment section below. Till next video, have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon. See ya.